A political odd couple could be inching the Senate toward a bipartisan agreement on financial reform, specifically on winding down firms that are too big to fail. Senator Mark Warner is a Virginia Democrat who has been working with Republican Bob Corker on the compromise. Senator Warner joins us now from Capitol Hill. Senator Warner, great to have you back on Street Smart. So talk to us about this compromise that's brought you and Senator Corker together. What specifically is it all about?
Well, first of all, Carol and Matt, it's good to be back on. And I got to tell you, maybe it's just because both of us are new guys. We didn't realize that we weren't supposed to actually try to get stuff done and find common ground. So I think the fact that both of us were business guys beforehand made us say, hey, we got a job in front of us. Chairman Dodd asked us to try to work together. And what we've been trying to do is how do we put together a systemic risk approach that will draw on kind of the best from all of the prudential regulators? How do we make sure that we kind of in too big to fail and we've got an orderly path to go through resolution? And how do we make sure that that we ensure that these firms can resolve themselves without having to draw upon the taxpayer? And I think, you know, there's still devil in the details in the final language, but Bob Corker and I shook hands on an agreement a few days back. Our staffs are working through the final parts right now, trying to vet it with some folks at Treasury. And I think when we roll out all the details, the market will be happy.
Can I ask you, though, how do you wind down essentially a firm that is too big to fail or is systemically so important without bringing down kind of the system? How do you do that?
Well, first of all, what you do is you try to put some speed bumps in place. You don't put an arbitrary size cap, or you don't restrict a firm from doing certain activities, but you do look at things, whether it's additional capital, whether it's convertible debt, whether it's trying to make sure that you've got a real plan in place where a firm has to, in effect, write its own funeral plan and have that plan, in effect, vetted by the regulators. You've got to make sure as well that you make resolution such a unattractive process that every rational management team will choose bankruptcy. So we want to make sure the bankruptcy provisions are strong enough, and if there is a resolution situation where it's in the system's best interest, we can resolve that towards receivership, not conservatorship. We want to make sure that the price of resolution means pretty much that firm's going out of business.
Senator, the idea that management would choose a resolution or choose a government bailout, I should say, over some sort of resolution like bankruptcy, is that as important as the counterparty risk? I mean, isn't that the real problem, the systemic nature of the banking system?
Well, that means how do we make sure, in terms of the systemic risk, it really is, we focus a lot on size, we look at a lot of activities, you know, whether it's proprietary trading or whether it's, you know, having a hedge fund. Those are things that are important for the prudential regulator. But in a lot of ways, we've got to measure the interconnectedness. What we've seen in some of the firms that threaten the whole financial system, it wasn't just AIG's size, but as you pointed out, it was they're interconnected with all the counterparties. We've got to make sure that the regulators have got more current information on that in that front. We've got to make sure that there's somebody knowing that there is a plan in place on how this firm would unwind and resolve itself. And as we said, you know, the bankruptcy process ought to be the case that becomes the default option in much more than 9 times out of 10.
Let me ask quickly here, Senator, only about 20 seconds left, but you said you don't want to restrict firms from certain practices. Does that mean that you're not in favor of the Volcker rule?
It means that while conceptually it makes a lot of sense, that sometimes it's hard to write that in a way that legislatively makes sense. I think making sure the prudential regulator, as Chairman Bernanke said today at the hearing, you know, that there's ways we can give the prudential regulator extra scrutiny to look at proprietary trading, hedge funds, private equity, but not out and out ban it.
Wait, is that a yes or no? 2 seconds here.
That means that I think that an outright ban might go too far, but there are ways that we can make sure that we can look at those activities with closer scrutiny.
We got to run. All right, Senator Warner, thank you so much.